super happy to be here. This is episode number 11 of the Devrel show. Hopefully, my internet connection is going to be good. I'm traveling. I'm in Austin right now, in Texas, in the United States, for Civo Navigate, and I'm at the hotel, and I don't know, if you travel just a little bit, you know that most of the time hotel Wi-Fi is not good. So now I'm tethering on my US SIM card, and hopefully that's gonna be good enough. But anyway, you're not here to see my face. You're here to see my guest, and I'm really excited to have Doug with us. We've worked a little bit in the past at a startup. We're both doing DevRel, and it's just nice to have another friendly face and another friend come to the show. So, Doug, if you would like to introduce yourself,
Hey,
who
Fred,
are you?
Hey, I'm Doug. It's good to see you again, Fred. I don't think we've ever met in person, but we've talked on Zoom a whole lot.
That's true.
But that's all cool.
That is so true.
I think it was all pandemic-y at the time. So I'm Doug. I've been doing DevRel for 20 years. Before they called it DevRel, I was helping developers build stuff. I started out, I thought I wanted to be a professor, but then I didn't want to be in academia. I landed a job at the AT&T developer program. So I started in telecom, helping developers build web pages that ran on your little crappy Nokia phone that you used to carry around. I used to work with Yahoo, so you could read your Yahoo mail on your Nokia, brick phone, right? It was fun stuff. I've been doing DevRel since 2G was fast.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, I didn't know you were in DevRel since literally forever. I was just looking at your LinkedIn before the show just to grab a better idea, because I didn't know all your experience. And I did not realize 20 years is a long time with developer relation. You're part of when I say to people, I'm like, hey, I'm doing that for 10 or 12 years. People are like, holy shit, it's been forever. And I'm like, yeah, now I know someone who's doing it for a lot longer than me.
We didn't call it DevRel then. I don't even remember what it was called, but I was in the developer program, and it just evolved, right? And it became more and more working with developers and helping them. That was very closed. It was very much a closed ecosystem, right? They didn't just let anybody, have an internet page on those little phones. It was a walled gardens, but it opened up, and then apps came out, and it was just a lot of fun. Built some tools for mobile app developers, wrote a book, and then, after about 10 or 12 years at AT&T, decided to do some startup stuff and left AT&T. Spent 5 years. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you mentioned a book and kids. This is how we were learning programming languages in the past. We didn't have all those tutorials online. And actually, I remember when I started as a developer, I was lucky because my main programming language at the time was Java, and it was Sun Microsystem at the time, and they had a forum for developers, but that was something that we didn't have access with a lot of other programming languages. So I was lucky because I could ask questions to some people in the community, but it was not even super popular. But books, I was going to the libraries, I was buying books if I wanted to learn a new programming language. And in my case, that was terrible because I was only speaking French. French is my first language, and I didn't know English that much at the time. And to wait for a book written in English to be translated in French was taking forever. But anyway, I was just I feel old now talking about learning technology with books, because it's still a thing. I mean, but I guess it's not the primary way to learn anymore when it's used. And actually, it was nearly the only way to learn at the time.
Absolutely. And I think the coolest thing about writing a book for O'Reilly is that I now have a lifetime pass to their online bookstore. So if I want to read a book, I can read it digitally for the rest of my life.
So take notes. Apress. I published a book at Apress. I don't have that. So if someone from Apress listening to that live stream, that is a good idea.
Yeah, it's been so great. It's like I need to figure out. I was doing some FinOps stuff, and I was like, "There's a book on FinOps. Download it, reading it. Just there's usually a book at O'Reilly on a topic, so you can find something.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's been
But
a
that
great learning experience as well.
it is. It is. So, speaking of experience, I'm curious about like you've been doing this for a while. When like before we didn't really have a name for that. Now we have a name. It's still a little bit of like everything and anything, depending on like which company you work for, or which like contract you're doing. So from your point of view, like, do you have any opinions about what's a little bit better now when it comes to developer relation, or what's is like what was maybe better in the past? Like, it's a huge question.
So I remember back at AT&T. So we were built this application. It was running network traces on your mobile phone because we didn't know so you could figure out how to make your apps run better. Because when Android and iOS first came out, those apps just all sucked, right? And so we built this tool, was running network traces, and we were finding out like how inefficient the apps were. And then we could say, hey, Netflix, your app is running poorly. You can make it better. Or hey, company Y, we can make your app better. And we were helping all these companies make their apps run better. And I remember we were writing the docs, and the people who were in charge of the websites like, we don't want to make these HTML pages. We're just gonna make them PDF. And they're like, you realize you can't search PDFs. And they're like, I don't care. I'm not building these as web pages, right? And it was in that early content management stage of things. And they're like, no, they all. It was an uphill battle to get them made into web pages so that like they didn't understand like search engine optimism. Like it was so early. Like I had to help push people forward.
That's amazing. Yeah, now it's another story. That it's not the same experience as you, but I remember prior to being a developer advocate, I was a software developer full time. I did that for maybe 10 years, and I was starting to blog on my own blog, and blog was kind of like a new-ish thing. And I was telling my boss at the time, I was like, yeah, we need to blog. We need to like be thought leader in what we do, because that was a new words that I learned, and like we need to show our expertise to people, and like now it's the time to do that, because we still can like be like part of like the first people to really like put developer content out there.
Well,
And my manager at the time, with all respect, it was kind of like normal reaction. It was like, oh, how long does it take to write a blog post? And I was starting, it was taking me forever to do like a proper tutorials. And it was like, yeah, but our customer are not technical. They're the one hiring us to do stuff. And I'm like, yeah, we need to prove them that we can do that. And that's one way to do that. And like, think about all the other benefits. Like we may be able to hire people that's going to be excited about our content, and we're going to be seen like spurred in like what we're doing. And unfortunately, I was not able to convince him to do that at the time. But that really makes me think about like now. I mean, like we ask, depending on the company, like sometimes the developers, the engineers, part of their job is to write some blog posts about like the things that they learn about their expertise, to like SEO, like having like a good SEO juice, or like being seen as thought leader, trying to help people to recruit, show your expertise. So that's great that like those whole their way of doing things, or actually not doing things, are changing.
yeah, I remember, I think that's one thing I've always tried to do when I am at Devrel is I don't want it. Most of my startup roles, I've been like the Devrel or like one of just a very small team. And I try to get the engineers like write something. And they're like, I'm not a very good writer. I'm like, I don't care. Put down like 8 bullet points and I'll turn it into a
Yeah.
blog post and then credit you, because otherwise the blog ends up being, you look at it, it's like Doug, 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 Doug. And it's like, no, I want it to be like everybody in the company has good things to
Yeah.
say. Let's get it all out there, because you don't want your outreach to be the Doug and Fred show. You want it to be like the company show, right?
I agree. I agree. Developer, I always say developer relation. Obviously, it's my responsibility, but at the same time, it's everyone's responsibility. I mean, like it's a company effort, and obviously, I'm going to spend like 100 of my time on it, and you won't. But like, it's still a company effort. Like, if I'm the only one, if I have a team and only my team is doing that, like, it's going to be like, we may be successful, but it's going to be harder than like if everybody puts some effort. And like, there is way to help people to do that. I remember, especially the startup that we kind of like work together at. I tried to bring engineers on board, and the good thing is that I had the leadership team that wanted the same thing, so it was easier to bring the engineering team on board of writing blog posts, because it was also coming from the top, not just me like trying to get people. And one of the things that I've seen is that like, people are afraid to write because they're like, hey, it's complicated. I'm not a good writer. I'm not a writer. I don't know if I can share something that's going to bring value to people, or it's already written out there. And I did one of those activities when I just like write every topics that you know just enough about on a post-it. We're going to put it on the wall. And we got like 100 something ideas from like 15 engineers. And I was like, okay, look at those. They're all good topics for you to write about. And they were like, yeah, but no, stop that. They're all topics that you're good to write about because you know enough to write something about. And even if like it's the internet, like everything is already written down. Like, you're going to bring your own perspective. You're going to bring your own like special sauce. And like, it's not because it exists that people will find it. So like, if it's there and you put it there, like it's just going to be useful for people, and you can do it.
I sort of feel like I do the same thing with my teenagers when they've got like a psychology paper to write. Like, I don't know what to say. I'm like, just start writing, right? Just,
exactly.
You know, like, fingers to keyboard and like throw away the first 3 paragraphs that you write. I don't care, right? Throw away the first page. Eventually you'll find your voice and you'll figure out what you want to say, right? And I've thought about this as like to have a book where it's like one side is like what I've learned as a Devrel to become a parent, and then the other side is like what I've learned as a parent that I can apply to Devrel, and it's like it says the same thing.
That is so nice. That is so nice. Speaking of your experience, one of the experience you have that is a little bit different than like the other guests that I had on the show is that right now you're freelancing. So you have like you're actually I really love your company's name. Speak of Devrel, love the logo too. I just love it. But yeah, so you're freelancing right now. You've done contracts before, so it's one part of your experience. So would you like to share a little bit about like that part of your experience, and maybe, I don't know, what's the difference between contracting, freelancing versus like being full time, and like, is there anything actually you want to share about that?
I mean, I don't know. I think what I really love about doing Devrel is just like working with cool teams and awesome technology, right? So right now I'm working with this company Corcel, and I'm going to show you some of that right now, and it's been a lot of fun. And you know, in the past, like the company we overlapped with, I was contracting at the time, but I also really like the full-time roles. And I think there's just one second. My dog wants to go inside and she's crying.
Yeah, no worries.
No worries.
No worries. This is part of live stream. There is dogs. The last live stream that I was doing, one of the kids really wanted to come on the camera, but like he was not properly. He didn't have clothes on it, so the father was like, "No, he's not coming to the camera." And I was like, "Victor, like let your kid come." And like, "No, you don't understand. Like he's not properly, like he doesn't have clothes, so he's like he's staying out of the camera." I'm like, "Okay, good." But like I like it's part of the show. And actually, I'm taking the time just to thank the sponsor of the Devrel show, which is my employer, Cube First. They're super nice about like me doing that show, and they let me do that show during my working hours. So that's a pretty amazing sponsorship there, being able to do my own show during my work time. So if you are in the cloud native, try Cube First. It's cubefirst.io. We give you instant GitOps platform that take you minutes on the clouds, public clouds one, instead of like taking you weeks or months to have like a production ready Kubernetes cluster with all the tools you want. So on that note, is the dog happy now?
The dog's inside, so I assume the dog is happy. Or the dog is not in my room, right? It's always awesome. Either they want in or they want out, or they want in and then you know how it. You've got cats, you know how it is. Yeah, so freelancing, like, I really enjoy it. Like, I think it's great. You get to, I think one thing that has really helped me is it's let me experience lots of different types of companies and figure out exactly where I want to end up. And sometimes the companies I've worked at, it's been, there's some where it's like, we're going to have you for 6 months. And that's sort of great. Like, that's enough time to sort of get your idea where you want to be. And they're like, hey, do you want to continue? And I'm like, I think I'm going to go do something else. So in some ways, it's really nice, right? Because, like, there are times where you feel that way when you're at a company. And there are other times where you're like, this is a blast. I'm having so much fun. And you hang on and you stay. And so I've had contract roles become full-time roles as well. Like, I just came on and I just stayed because it was awesome and I was having a great time. So I think, I think a lot of companies are, it sort of feels like today that there's a lot of, it's hard to get a job in Devrel right now. So I think this is a great way to sort of get into that full-time job, is you can find some contracting roles and then figure out how you want to make that, roll up into something full-time. Like, that's a great way to go.
Yeah. I think it could be interesting also for the company. I talked to like many founders. They were like, "Hey, we think we would like a developer advocate, but we're not quite sure like if this is the kind of role we want to focus on at the beginning." So having that, like, someone as a contractor, it's kind of like a quote unquote trial period also, or there are some companies also that, like, budget wise, they may not be able to afford a developer advocate, or it's not because they're not able to afford, but like it may not be a priority or one, like it's one of the priorities. So having someone who's been like maybe not a full-time contract, but like, let's say I see a lot of like friends that like have a full-time job and on top of that, like, they do some contracts during the weekend, and that helps those company solve specific issues that they have or specific tasks that they need a developer relation person to do without having to hire someone full time. So I think there's benefits on both sides.
Absolutely. That's sort of where I've fallen in, is sort of like either it's been, hey, I think we need someone. Oh yeah, we do. And then you're like, no, now you're full time. And then there's other times where it's like, we just need someone to write a couple we need some blog posts written. All right, well, let's do that. Or, hey, our docs kind of suck, right? Let's figure that out. So
which never happened.
Has never happened, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Docs
but
always good.
There's always something that needs to get done. So yeah, it's I don't know. I don't think it's that much different than a full-time job, except for it's just sort of being in America. Like, full-time jobs can just end just like,
That is true though. Like, I mean, it's different. Like, yeah, thinking about friends where like it's super complicated to let people go. And I'm not a legal person. Like, it's just from what I heard, it's way more complicated than like in the US. It can go like that. Even in Canada where I live, it's like the minimum they have to do is like give you a 2-week notice. And they don't even have to make you work. It's like they give you 2 weeks. They can pay you and like you go back home and you don't have to work and anything. But like, that's the basic stuff. So like you can lose your job. Like, I was that's funny because for years we work in tech. Like, you have layoff. We work at startups. There is instability. So like a lot of us and people doing that for a long time, we lost a couple of jobs. We left a couple of jobs because they were not like a good fit for different reasons, or we stopped to grow, or like job was that happened to me. Like, the job was perfect. My manager left. Someone else came in. Didn't work out at all. So I'm like, okay, it's not a good fit for me anymore. And it's kind of like the reality. And I had that discussion with my dad, who had the same job for like 30 something years and more. And it was like it's not working. Like, you need to have stability. And I'm like, stability does not exist. I don't know about the other type of work, but like in tech, it's not because you have a full-time job that it means you're going to have it tomorrow. We see it like since the pandemic, there were so many like mass layoff and so many layoff at company. It's happening like every week, nearly every day. Like, people lose their job, and tech is still the future, and there's still like a lot of things to do. But like, stability is I don't think it's a thing anymore.
I started a job when I was living in the UK, and like that job if they wanted to let me go, they had to give me 3 months of garden leave. And they call it garden leave because basically they're like, you don't work here anymore. Go sit in your garden for 3 months.
Okay. I mean that's a kind of good thing because I've been in places where like that happened where they were like they gave me 2 weeks or 2 months or some places are nice like when they do layoff like they do it well if you can do like
Yeah.
if you can do it well like they give you proper like amount of money because they know you need to turn around like finding a job no matter your credibility no matter your network no matter your experience it takes time to
Mhm.
find the right job. So some places they just do it well, but like outside of that, like they mean like some people they want you to finish what you started. They want you to prepare like the place for maybe a replacement or the other team that will take the workload. And let's be honest, like when you just learn that you lost your job, I want to be professional, but like the 2 weeks or 2 months or 3 months after that, it's really hard to do the job. Like if it's like, yeah, I'm giving my 200% because of like, yeah, I'm not gonna have a job in 2 weeks, and like you try to be professional, but like I think it make way more sense to just say like, hey, I'm gonna give you some money, go find another job, just take some time off. It's not gonna be a win-win situation for either of us. So yeah,
Well, and especially as a Devrel, like if you're recording a video, you can't be like, right? You,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
I
it's just
always say
weird.
that like it made me it made me think because when I talk about DevRel, um, 2 things. First, uh, any type of job for me is a job, meaning that like we do this because we need money to make a living. Doesn't mean that I cannot enjoy my job, and most of the time I enjoy my job. I enjoy doing developer relation,
Mhm.
but I feel like for that specific role, you need to have like just a notch over. Like you need to be passionate about like your focus. You need to be passionate about the technology. You need to be passionate about a product, or at least know that you can be passionate about it because
Mhm.
that's going to translate, as you said, in videos. And like, yay, let me talk to you about that super exciting things. And like, if you don't care about it, you're not excited about it. Not
No,
going to work.
absolutely.
It's not
No, I
going to
think
work.
that's the absolutely 100%.
Yeah, I was curious. One of the things we were talking before the show. Right now, you're doing some Web3,
Correct.
like you work Web3 shop, and we're going to talk a little bit about AI and everything. But like, I'm just curious from someone who is kind of like new-ish, like to Web3. Like, what's your experience so far? Like, what's happening right now?
So like I don't really it isn't that much different than like I mean, there's a learning curve, right? Anytime you start in a new
Mhm.
role, it's like you've got to pick up some new stuff and become an expert in it. And so I've spent a lot of time doing some research and writing a lot of documentation and getting it all down. Because frankly, a lot of it isn't written. Like there's a lot of stuff out there on the internet, but like it
Mm.
needs a central repository. So like, hey, the guy who writes the docs can work on that, right? So here I am working on a bunch of documentation to make it like understandable, if that makes sense. So, like, there's a lot of people who are
Yeah,
interested in the project, but like, how do I? There's a lot of how do I get started? What do I need to do to make this work? And so, we're just doing a lot. Um, I don't know. Spend.
learn.
I lost my train of thought. But there's just a lot of there's a lot. Sorry,
That
there's a
happens.
lot of
Don't
learning
worry.
about like what you need to, just to get started. But it feels like a project. Like, I've done
Mhm.
Web 2 projects, I've done, you know, FinOps projects, I've done a fintech, right? It's just a different technology stack. And now I'm learning about
You're right.
Web 3. And it's just
You're right.
there, when Web 3 first came out, there was a lot of like anger on Twitter about it. But I'm starting to realize that like, was it just a lot of people bitching on Twitter?
No, but I think my question was coming from that point exactly, like some maybe bias I have about Web3 because I'm like I've never worked on a Web3 project, and
Yeah.
when it started, it was all about like cryptocurrency, and at some point it was like all about NFTs, and like I don't want to talk about NFTs right now, but like I think it's a big bullshit. But like and it's okay if you like it. It's totally my point of view. But like one of the things that I was impressed at the beginning was like the blockchain technology and the fact that like it's decentralized, and that kind of like part of the Web3 that I was super excited about, because the focus was so much on cryptocurrency, which I love the idea, but I don't know if the execution went well. I don't know if at some point that's going to be really something. And I stopped not believing, but I stopped like taking care much about like what's happening on that side. So I guess I have some kind of like bias behind the technology, but I know it's not just about crypto. I know like you're going to demonstrate some stuff around it. So I guess my question was coming from like that bias about like, yeah, but like Web3, yeah, it's just another technology, but is it just another technology? Like, I don't know if it
So,
makes sense.
yeah, I mean, I think, I guess, there are people out there using technology in good ways, and then there are people who out there who are creating technology that doesn't, move anything forward. And so that's probably true for Web3 as it is for any other technology that's right. Like you've got people who are using AI to create all these amazing things, and you've got people creating AI voices to pretend and try to scam people on the phone, right? Like there's some really awesome things about AI, and then there's some like that's kind of crappy bits about it, right? Like I think all of it has different, and I sort of felt the way you felt too originally, because I would go to meetups and I was going to give a presentation, and the person before me was talking about blockchain, and I couldn't understand what they were talking about. Like they were so into their world. I think some of the stuff that comes with some of that technology is you have to be able to explain that to the like if you can explain it to your crypto people, like that's awesome, but that's like 1% of the developer community. And really, if it's something that anyone can use, you need to get that out to the rest of the community. And the thing I'm going to demo here in a little bit, if I told you it ran on AWS, you'd believe me, right? You wouldn't have any doubt that, yeah, Doug says it's on AWS, so they must have some Lambda functions, blah, blah, blah. It's running on AWS. This is running with blockchain on the back, on the back half of it.
Okay.
And so, like, to me, that's awesome, right? It's a technology that if I showed it to you, you could probably build something with it in a very short order. Or you could play around with it, and I'll show you. I'll share the website so everybody can play with it, because it's kind of fun and cool to play with. But really, it's just a technology, right? It's a stack that people are building technology on, and if you can do something, this could end up being monetized. But you could monetize it by buying crypto, which would probably really limit your audience. But if you hooked it in with Stripe, right, anyone could use it. And then it's just like on the back end, you have to do some financial stuff on your end, but that's fine, right? Like you do that, right? Have the company do that. And then like, how many apps do you pay like $15 a month for, or $10 a month for, or as a company, the company pays $300 a month for, right? It could just be like that, and it's just running on the blockchain underneath it.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're way more wiser than me it comes to that, and I'm really glad. This is part of why I do that show. I mean, like, I know I have some bias against some type of technology that most of them are based on nothing tangible. It's just like, hey, I didn't have time to really spend or I didn't decided to spend the time to learn more about it. My opinion is based on like what my network is sharing, like on Twitter, on LinkedIn, or what I've heard from other people, and not always on facts. So that's part of like why I love having guests from different background, different experience, and it's also part why I decided at the beginning that show was just like, hey, let's just talk to people. That was the initial idea, and at some point I was like, no, you know what, I want like a demo part. Because it's nice to have two people talk about Devrel and their career, but like I also want people to learn. Not that the discussion may not bring tangible things, but like having a demo about specific technology, programming language, library, product, it's just going to like hopefully help like the listener to maybe grab a new skills, or at least like pick their interest about something. So speaking about that, I would love you to demo me that Web3
Yeah.
technology working on blockchain, and we're talking about AI, and like there's a lot of interesting stuff. So
Yeah.
the floor is yours.
I'm
I
gonna
want
step.
to learn more about that.
I'm gonna go back to the comment before. I got a lot of. There was a. It was a video just similar to this one. I don't remember who hosted it, and I can picture his face, but I can't get his name. But the guy who was his guest was Ben Greenberg, Hummus on Rails on Twitter. I just remember that because he's got a great Twitter handle. Um, but it's a really great sort of video like this where he talks about Web3, and it helps me like open my eyes a little bit about this. All right, so what I'm going to demo here is an app called Corcel. So let me share my screen here. Okay, and so here's the theory. Here's the idea behind this. So if you think about like Bitcoin, whenever somebody exchanges Bitcoin, there's a bunch of computers that are mining and doing all of this like mathematics to say like Doug is giving Fred a Bitcoin. Does Doug have that Bitcoin? Can Fred accept that Bitcoin? And like we're burning down the planet, right? With all of that electricity that's being burned to do that. This is a blockchain that instead of like doing those hashes to transfer money, it's using those GPUs to do machine learning. Because if you think about like large language models, like OpenAI like spent like $100 million to train Chat GPT-4, right? They had to get like all these like GPUs, like it was really expensive. So anyway, this is a decentralized idea behind doing machine learning. And so like this is there's a whole bunch of people behind this. So like if I do a query here, it's going to go off to people who are mining this information, and it's going to present the data back. And so we're going to show off the image studio. This just launched today. Like
Wow.
15 like I was going to show the APIs, but the APIs are broken. They'll be fixed later this week. But what's cool about this is it's all API run, and it's all free right now because it's behind it. The people who are hosting all the machines and doing all the work are getting paid on the blockchain, but through their mining. And so it's free for us to use it right now. I mean, it may eventually become monetized. That's a whole other story. We have all these cool applications that you can do. And so like the first one is, of course, like let's generate a picture, right? And so you've probably done this. It's like Dolly, right? So it could be like a developer advocate is giving a keynote. Let's see what happens.
Oh God! I funny enough, I think that was the first prompt that I used from like one of the AI image generation, and the rendering was sad and true at the same time. Oh, this is way better.
That's not bad.
This is what.
I don't know if I would call that a large conference, but at least there's some people there.
You know, when it comes to AI, I mean, I'm a little bit lukewarm to a lot of things like around AI right now. I know it's just the beginning. We're barely scratching the surface, but one of the things that I'm super excited about is like everything around like image rendering, or even like I think it's OpenAI that announced like video rendering not long ago, like last week or beginning of this week. And like those are the things that like I feel personally right now I'm super excited about, like being able to I'm not an artist. I have no design skills. I'm not a photograph, and I keep searching my images like on like sites like Pexel or like Unsplash, but like being able to render exactly what I want. It's super exciting.
Yeah. And so like that one is cool, but the ones that I really think are awesome is like the uncrop. And this is really awesome. So what we're going to do is, so it's the opposite of cropping, right? And so let's come over here to GitHub, this image right here. Let's load that up. And what we're going to do is we're going to tell it what we want. So this is the picture I took down my road in the fall, right? And so what we want to do is, it's a sunny fall day, walking down a gravel road, all or it'd be helpful if I could spell. But that's what this is all about. So we're going to uncrop it, and what it's going to do is it's going to fill this whole thing with the rest of the image. So it's the opposite of cropping. It's going to generate a new image. And you can play with it. Like you can move the image into different places as it's generating, but let's see what happens here when this does it. I was playing with this image before. It was doing some really crazy stuff. It was amazing. So it filled in, it added in more picture to the thing. Really good. So we can actually, I didn't realize, so like we could make it smaller like this, and let's see what it does. Like this is our frame.
I like that. Like, as I said, like when I give talks, I use a lot of images. Like I don't put a lot of text on my talks. And sometimes I find like the perfect picture, the perfect image, but like it doesn't zoom well. It doesn't fit well, like within like the ratio of my slide. So I like that.
So like this is the real photo right here, but the rest of it, like you can tell it's not perfect, and we can play with the settings to make it better, but like that's pretty darn good. Like I'm pretty happy with that. Like I wouldn't, make that the main picture of my website, but if it was a background image on my website, that'd be totally fine, right? Like I think that's pretty cool.
And again, like you said, like you just launched today, so like that's pretty amazing. Again, that's only the beginning of that too.
Yep. Upscale will take, like, you have a blurry image, it'll like sharpen it for you. I don't have a good sample for that, but this one is really cool. It's Scribble. And so you just draw something right here. And so the one I've been doing is I'll just draw something like this.
I see you have talents like myself.
Yeah, right. Yeah. An ancient stone bridge over a running river.
And it's going to generate the image based on your sketch.
Based on my scribble.
Okay. That's interesting. I'm definitely going to try that.
Like, it's not like we can make this better, right? But like, it's a good first start to like generate something fun. Like that does look a little weird. So we could be,
no, but still, like I get the gist.
Yeah,
I get the gist of it, and again, sometimes like I want to, like I know the image that I want, but again, I'm not going to be able to create it, and like being able to mix a prompt with like a scribble, a sketch of like what you want. I think it's pretty good.
That's a lot better. Look, I drew it to the bridge to the end, and that looks better.
That's the kind of bridge I would walk on, though.
So. I think it'd be awesome. I'm having so much fun, wouldn't it? Like that, it sort of looks like you'd get to it and be like, "Is this safe for us to go across?" Anyway, but like, what's neat about this is like, if, like I said, like if this was Lambda functions on the back end, like you would believe that, right? But this is, and number one, if you've ever used DALL-E, like this is so much faster. Like this is just crazy fast. It's doing all this heavy lifting here in the back end. Reimagine is kind of neat. So let's do a reimagine. Let's get started. And now we can pick an image. Whoops. Let's just drag that in here. And we want to say, let's do this one. And it's like, the speaker is on a stage presenting slides to an audience of 1,000. Let's see what happens. So we can just, we've got that first image. We want it to be a little bit different. It didn't really do much for me there. But I think if we tone down, so the image strength is like how much you want it to be the image and how much you want it to be the prompt. So you can play around with some of these things and it'll change the image. I might start over again with that one. But, again, like this is AI stuff is just, number one, like to think that you could generate, even like a year ago when we were generating images, like they weren't this good by any stretch of the imagination. And now we've got these tools, and this is free. You can go to app.corcel.io. You can sign up. and it's, there are APIs. You can come up here to the docs and I wrote the docs. There's not a lot there, but you can start seeing how it all fits together. And if you wanted to build an application with it, you can get an API key and you can start building on these tools and create your own application with AI generation built into the back end, which to me is, the sky's the limit when you can do all these sorts of things. And so I think it's super exciting. And, I'm really happy and excited to be working on this project because, number one, hey, what did you do today? Hey, I generated a picture of a couple hedgehogs sitting on top of a crocodile, right? And
and I was paid to do that.
Hedgehogs riding a crocodile, right? And we can do that.
Yeah, no, actually, at that point, we're reaching a point where the limit is our imagination.
Yeah. So let's play with it. Let's have some fun and let's see what we can do. I don't know, that crocodile has a lot of heads, but we'll work. We can work through that, and
Oh yeah, but it's every AI technology right now are at the point where you can generate amazing things, and there are some small difficulties or rendering issues, but still I'm amazed at what those can generate. No matter the little things that some people try to pinpoint. Oh, I like that.
I like the one on the left. That's actually really cool. It's not really. It's more like an armadillo, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's all good. It looks so. You were saying you liked the image that I have for Speak of the Devrel. I generated it with this tool.
Oh yeah, awesome. Yeah. So for those of you who are wondering what we're talking about, it's once we're done with the live stream, just refresh the YouTube page, and you're gonna see the thumbnail for the show. There is a dog logo on top of it. It's a little devil, and I just love it. That's a great logo. Actually, that's a great name of a company too. So that's amazing.
My kids always get on me for the dad jokes, and I'm like, well, if I'm gonna do it, we're gonna go big, right?
Go big or go home. So that's amazing. So as you said, this is a tool a mix between Web3 technology, AI. Right now, what you've shown us is kind of the web studio, but there's also an API, so developer can implement this in their application. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So that's what you're working on right now.
Absolutely. It's a super, it's crazy fun because, when you're dog fooding your own project, right, you can start creating the content, with your own tools. And it's been so much fun to figure out how to make it work and then share those experiences in the docs and the content that I'm creating as we're doing it. So it's, I just think everyone who's watching the video should try it out because number one, it's just a fun thing to spend 15 minutes doing, right? Yeah. You could just start thinking man, wouldn't it be cool if I could have an image of this? And you're like, I can, right? And we could say we could say, make it line art. You can, and so there's and so you can say it'll make it different types. You could say, make it a comic book or make it anime. And it'll change. I don't know what it'll do with line art. Let's see what it does. That's pretty cool. Or you could say anime. The animes are usually come off a little crazy, but anime in general, the images are a little crazy. But there's
I like that.
You could make it photographic quality. You could make it cinematic quality. Yeah, those are the one on the left is cute. And they're actually really good at post up.
Yeah, when you said play with that for 15 minutes, I think you're lying. There's no way people I remember every time I'm playing with a new technology generating images, it's not just 15 minutes. It's I can spend an hour or more trying to generate stuff and just getting better at writing the prompt and making the image a little closer to what I want.
It'd help if I could spell, but let's see what it does. That's kind of cool. Like it. Anyway,
That is.
it's been a lot of fun because you get to try different things, and we're starting to see people build things with this. There's some people out there who have there's a Discord channel that you can sign up. I think from the website we'll have some links on there, where you can generate your own Twitter banner. Just you put in a prompt, it'll generate the banner, and then you can download it and set it right. It gives you all the right dimensions and everything so that you can do that. So people are using our APIs to build tools that, I mean, I don't, they're fun, right? The useful tools will come, but like right now people are building stuff that are just fun projects. Like, would it be cool if I could make my Twitter banners? Like, oh, I could just make an app that does this and everyone can do it.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Awesome, man. Great,
cool.
Great demo, great technology. As you said, people can try it. Go on Corcel.io, help.corcel.io.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's there, and the API is going to be fixed soon, so you're going to be able to implement it. Like I know the guy who's going to write the docs too, so I know the docs. I know the docs are going to be good. I've seen his work. So
cool. Yeah,
that's
promise,
cool.
Promise they will be good.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. So on that note, I think it brings us to the end of the show. Any one last word that you would like to share with folks?
No, thanks for having me on the show. It's been a lot of fun. It's been great catching up and showing off some fun technology. So that's what I think Devrel is all about, right?
I think it is. So thanks for you to be on the show. Thanks everyone for joining us live. Thanks for people who's going to watch the recording. If you have any question, I share Doug's Twitter a couple of times. Please feel free to reach out to him. And on that note, I know the last two live stream were on different days, different times, but because of like traveling, and the last one I was sick when it was supposed to happen. Starting on the next show, episode number 12, we are going back to the regular schedule, unless there's a guest in a way further time zone and we need to adjust. But the next show is going to be not next week's, but in 2 weeks on Thursday. It should be at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. And we have, people are pretty quiet today, but we have a thank you from Night Flight 89, which I know you are, but like I have brain fart right now. I can't remember exactly who you are, but like, thanks for being on the show. And it was a pleasure. So everybody, we leave you on that. We wish you a good rest of the day and see you in a little more than 2 weeks for the next episode. Have a good one.